Nobody told you that when you started your business, you weren't just signing up to serve clients, you were signing up to learn it all. How to run ads, how to craft the perfect hook for an email, video, podcast, and post, posting content, handling DMs, running calls, the whole bit, and then figuring out how to hire and fire people to help you. But in the process, you became your entire client acquisition system, which means without you, there are no new clients. So sure, you can schedule your launches around your vacation schedule. You can batch content weeks in advance, set up autoresponders, and even push out promotions strategically. But at the end of the day, it still relies on you being the one to pull the strings. And you tell yourself that because the level of clientele you work with, you can't offload any of it because your conversions will tank. Nobody could duplicate your voice and personality, or maybe you've already tried hiring an agency, a salesperson, a marketer, and it just never worked. But repeat after me. You are not your client acquisition system. You are not the sole source of getting clients, because if you are, you've created a job, not a business, and we're going to fix that here today. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. In last week's episode, we talked all about what it means to create a set it and forget it marketing strategy and how you create this marketing system that you can actually rely on to run for decades to come without having to reinvent the wheel or hustle all the time. And I shared with you the importance of creating a strategy that is built around the right buyer so that you're not constantly chasing after people who are unready or unqualified to actually work with you. Now, that episode was a perfect segue into today's discussion because you'll hear me say it again and again. Strategy is the very first step to offloading your client acquisition without losing results. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that today. So let's get real. Now, I recently saw a post where someone was asking how much of client acquisition actually rested or relied on the CEO. Now, the responses left me shocked because nearly every single person said that 100% of client acquisition relied on them. That meant traffic, generating leads, nurturing leads, converting leads, and everything in between was being run by the CEO. And then these were business owners that were making between $100,000 and $500,000, yet they were the client acquisition system. So let me be the first one to tell you, we are not building businesses that rise and fall on your shoulders and you being the sole source of clients, because you know that you want and need a proven and repeatable client acquisition system, one that works without you always needing to work it or be on, while being able to still keep your messaging, your expertise, and your authority intact. Because when you do, you get to offload without losing your voice, your integrity, or your results. And your business keeps running, clients keep enrolling, even if you step away, and you scale without being the bottleneck, because this isn't about removing you, it's about elevating you. So here's my hot take. Right now, your business isn't truly scalable if you're the one that's driving every single sale. It limits your ability to grow beyond your bandwidth because you can only handle so much. And when you hit these new growth milestones, things begin to get more overwhelming. And it creates this income instability because no sales equals no revenue, and you have to be on all the time just to bring in more. So let's get real. This is keeping you stuck in a cycle where you can't take a real break without seeing that dip in sales. You're trading your time for money, burning out, and you're unable to scale effectively. So this is why so many agencies, sales hires, and outsourced marketing efforts end up failing, because they're plugged into a broken system that is dependent on you or a person. The reality is, if you're not in the picture, nothing happens. So you need to be able to shift away from being the bottleneck to being the visionary who creates the space for your system to run smoothly without you. The problem is, the typical advice we see on how you solve for this is severely lacking and has already costed you time and money. And we've seen it all over the last 20 years. Number one is outsourcing everything all at once. You're told to hire a marketing agency, a sales rep, a VA, whoever, just to try and hand off your client acquisition duties. Now, the idea is that once you hand it off, the magic will just start to happen. The problem? Outsourcing without a clear strategy is like handing your car keys to someone without teaching them how to drive. If you don't give them a proven process to follow, they're just guessing. And you know what happens when people guess? A lot of wasted time, money, and frustration. You cannot just throw people at the problem and expect results. They need a clear guideline and a proven plan to execute on. This is why I tell people that if your system or your magic is in your brain, then it is nearly impossible to scale. The next commonly taught approach is the install my system in your business approach. We've all seen it, right? It's all over the internet where people are being taught to just install their system that bought me a cajillion new clients and use this template, copy my process, all of these things, right? The problem is your business, your audience, your outcomes are unique. So what worked for one business won't work for another. These copy and paste solutions are not accounting for your brand, your voice, and the unique problems that your clients face. Your strategy needs to be tailored to your business and the specific type of clients that you serve, because what works for one business may not work for another, especially if you're not aligning with their approach to their brand and their method. The next is the build a brand mentality. Now, let's be honest. In 2023 and 2024, we saw this become a huge major boom where a lot of entrepreneurs were being taught that their business needs to be built around them, their personality, their charisma, their personal magic. So they start sharing every single little detail of their life and building their brand around who they are. Now, the problem is, this leads to creating a person-dependent business. And as you know, a person-dependent business is a fragile one because an unpopular opinion is a brand that's built around you is set up to fail. So when your business depends on your personal brand alone, you become a limiting factor to growth. You become the bottleneck. And the business that relies too much on you and your personality to succeed limits that scalability. So this type of personal brand approach can work in the short term, but it doesn't actually leave room for sustainable growth or automation. And there's a reason why these commonly taught approaches haven't worked. They're all built around scaling a broken system, one that relies too heavily on you as the sole source of magic, making your voice nearly impossible to amplify. Now, the real thing that we need to focus on is that we need to stop creating people-dependent sources, which means we're creating a process that is people-dependent. So every solution we've tried so far simply shifts the weight of who takes on that work to someone else. So you were the bottleneck, and now instead of fixing that, you managed a team that depends on you to run the system. And when something is people dependent, it means that those results hinge on whether or not someone shows up, whether or not they understand your vision, whether they execute flawlessly, which, let's be honest, that rarely happens. And hiring a VA, a marketer, or even an agency isn't going to be the answer, because if they're plugging into a system that still relies on you, you're just shifting the bottleneck, not removing it. So a real solution is not about replacing you with another human. It's about building a system that works independently and can be run or supported by others without requiring them to become you, so that you can actually have a system that runs, that does the heavy lifting for you. So let me paint a picture for you. Let's take Gordon Ramsay for an example, one of the most famous chefs in the world. When he first started, he was the one cooking. He was the one perfecting recipes. He was the one running the kitchen, right? People came because he was the chef. But imagine if today, every single Gordon Ramsay restaurant relied on him personally being in the kitchen, cooking every dish. It wouldn't work, right? He'd be completely trapped, unable to expand, and customers would only get the experience if he was there. Instead, Ramsay built a system. He documented his methods, he trained his chefs, and he created processes that ensure that every single restaurant upholds his standards, even if it's on the other side of the world. That's why you can walk into a Gordon Ramsay restaurant in Las Vegas, London, or Dubai and still get a dish that meets his overall level of excellence without him being the one to cook it. This is exactly what most business owners are missing in their client acquisition. Right now, you're still the chef cooking every single meal. And as long as everything depends on you, your business truly can't grow. But when you build a system that preserves your expertise while removing you as the bottleneck, you free yourself to scale without sacrificing results. I call this an adaptive pre-selling system. And it works in two parts. Part number one, the foundation that adapts. The first step is to building this strategy that actually works with you, your business, your audience, your goals, and your personality. This isn't about forcing a one-size-fits-all playbook into your business. Instead, we're creating a custom strategy that ensures, one, you're positioned in a way that works for your growth goals. Two, your client acquisition works without constant effort from you. And three, you can easily automate or delegate parts of it without losing your voice or conversions. Let's take my client Rachel, for example. We built a strategy that combines her evergreen bingeable podcast with a live open house. So the podcast runs 24/7, attracting and pre-selling leads even while she's offline. While the live open house gives her an easy, high-impact way to engage buyers whenever she wants. And when she's ready, she can offload nearly 70% of her client acquisition. But for my client Gloria, we built a simple content system that only requires her to create 2 pieces of content every Monday. Now, from those 2 pieces of content, we set up a handoff strategy so that her VA can distribute her content across platforms, engages and support leads in the DMs, creates additional traffic driving content from what she's already recorded, which means that Gloria only spends 2 hours on a Monday and takes 3 to 4 short sales calls a week with pre-sold clients. Her VA, who works just 10 hours a week, handles the rest, not losing her voice by having AI or someone else create content that removes her expertise. No massive funnels, no huge team, just a lean and efficient system that adapts to her. Now, the best part about this is because we created something that's not people dependent, which means if her VA needs to take a day off or she completely revamps everything, she still has a system that can work regardless and can now be automated or again, delegated to someone else. See, the right strategy sets the foundation for this acquisition system that you can now automate or delegate without losing control or conversions. And once that's in place, we move to the second piece of the puzzle, the pre-selling system. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They create client acquisition strategies that are, again, built around people doing the selling. So it either looks like you manually convincing your leads one by one, a team of closers, social sellers, and VAs chasing those leads, a high-touch sales process that only works when you personally run it. Those are all things that are people dependent, which means it's inconsistent, it's time-consuming, and it's full of bottlenecks versus a pre-selling system, a system that does that selling for you before a lead even gets on a call, one where your content and your assets handle those objections up front, where you address that natural decision cycle that your leads are going through, checking off the boxes in their brain, making every yes an easy yes. And your audience is already sold on your method before they even inquire. So you only talk to high intent, ready to buy leads. This is the shift that changes everything. Your team doesn't sell, your content does. Your funnel doesn't convince, your bingeable sales system does. And instead of trying to get people to say yes, your system makes them chase you. This is the power behind the Easy Yes method and why we've created something that truly gets your leads to sell themselves. And there's just 3 simple steps. The first one is actually being able to carve out a space in the market where your competition is irrelevant. Because the reality is no amount of marketing and sales will solve a positioning problem, which is how do people view you in the market? Do they see you as one solution or as the only solution? Because when we do this correctly, we're actually creating demand, people running to you, saying that they're only going to work with you because you are the only option for them. This is how we help our clients build what we call innovative gap methodology, where they create a space in the market where their competition becomes completely irrelevant, where people see them as the only option and they pay them 5 to 10 times more in order to work with them. This is the first step. It's the part that we say, do not pass go, do not move forward, do not do any next step until you have this built first. Because this is how we create true innovation in a market where you are now able to revolutionize, create inbound demand, and create price elasticity over whatever you want to charge because people are willing to work with you and only you. The next step is amplifying that through our bingeable decision system. So again, this is a process that uses a pre-selling approach that is built around you. So whether that's content, whether that's a evergreen process, or whether it's combining some of these pieces together, the entire intent behind this is that we leverage what we call our mirrored decision-making process. This process is our proprietary approach to how we actually take how people naturally move through a decision cycle, and we just mirror that. We take that through whatever process we apply it to. So we're building out these systems that allow people to go through the process, feel completely ready to say yes without you needing to do any of the selling. This is what we call the Netflix effect, and it's how you're able to automate conversions and get your leads to sell themselves. The third and final piece is creating a process that allows you to deliver on the promises you've made, because the last thing you want in a business is creating a process that only creates short-lived success, because you can't actually deliver on the promises that you make. So this is when we systemize your delivery process so you're getting your clients world-class results at scale without being fully dependent upon you. This is where we create a happy client machine where clients are shouting your name from the rooftop, telling anyone who will listen, because you are the knight in shining armor who created the massive transformation in their lives. This is why I'm so passionate about the Easy Yes method and why I want to share with you how we can support you in building the systems and building the strategies and building the method that helps you create a process that gets your leads to sell themselves so that you can create a revolution in your industry. So if you're ready to do that, I want to invite invite you to book a growth optimization call with me. You can head on over to easyesleads.com/call to book your call now, where we'll sit down, we'll look at your client acquisition, and I'll share with you exactly where the biggest optimization points are and how the easiest method can be applied within your business. So if you're ready to do that, head on over to easyesleads.com/call. But if you're new around here, first of all, welcome. We're so excited to have you. And I want to invite you to check out our free on-demand series where I break down how we use the EasyS method and the Netflix effect to get leads to sell themselves. I'll break down the 3-step process of exactly what we do and why it's so effective, and how 452 plus of our clients have been able to use this to scale a truly successful business that runs without their constant need to be involved in it. So you can head on over to thenetflixeffect.com to check this out now. But as always, we love and appreciate if you could just take a quick moment to rate, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend. But until next time, here's to keeping it real.